Yes, we're live. Honestly, the man flu has got worse, but we have got a lot of news for you today. We've got Toto's engine problem. It's not what you think. We've got Leclerc and George Russell's shared Hamilton problem. It's also his birthday today. Happy birthday, Lewis Hamilton. But we've got a lot to get into with that. Audi's first F1 success. We're going to talk about something quite interesting going on in the Audi camp. And we've got a Cadillac warning as well for 2026. Lots to get into. Of course, this is F1 Grandstand, your daily F1 news. If you are brand new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button. If you do enjoy the video, smash a like on it. Hit the little notification bell so you can stay up to date with all of our content. And thank you so much for all of your support. So who we got with us tonight? Jaman's in the house. Eric, nice to see you there live wire. Semma, let's go. Yes, Mark, how are you feeling, mate, after your dental work? Hope you're feeling all right, buddy. Sudrish, hello. Nice to have you all with us. Yeah, there's a lot to get into tonight, and please bear with me. I really am full of man flu. Like, my nose has not stopped streaming. Honestly, it's horrendous. So please bear with me. I've got my bottle of water, should I need it. I've taken some Beecham's, and we'll get through this together. We'll get through it together. So yeah. So what have I been talking about with Toto's engine problem? Let's have a look at it. So it's not what you think. Okay, so Planet F1 did a big, they had an interview with Toto Wolff. And it's a bit more deep than just the problem, but we'll get into all of it. So Toto Wolff has basically said Mercedes need to reduce the amount of customer teams for the next regulation cycle because 4 teams is too many. Now, why is he saying this? Is he saying this because 4 teams is actually too many? Or is it because maybe his old friend Christian Horner's taking over Alpine and he wants to ditch him? That's speculation, but we'll be coming to all of it. But the big thing is that we're going to talk about is, which I found very revealing, it was Toto was very open and very honest about the benefits of having so many customer teams for their power unit. So like I said, this is Planet F1. I'm just going to pick out some of the interesting parts of the article. So what he basically said, and I'm going to quote him, is that we will reduce the number of teams we're going to supply in the next cycle. We don't know whether the truth is between 2 teams or 3 in total. I guess it depends on the new regulations, which will be 2031, on whether they're going to be simple or not. Now, Toto Wolff believes they're going to go back to V8 engines, naturally aspirated, for the next regulation cycle after this one, which would actually make engines far more simple to produce. And we might see manufacturers like Cosworth coming back in, maybe BMW, Toyota, lots of other engine manufacturers may come back in, so it won't be a problem. This regulation cycle, they're complicated. Not the end. This current regulation up to the end of 25 are the most complicated because they've got the this weird regeneration from the exhaust gases, which is quite, brilliant, but it just made the power unit super complicated. Anyway, he goes on to say, what it is, we believe so what he says about why they've gone with 4 customer teams, he said, we believe we can learn by supplying more, whilst at the same time needing to lock in some designs earlier. When you consider how many engines that Mercedes need to ship to Melbourne 2026, for them, it's like 16 engines. But if you're Honda, or on your own, you've got to ship 4. So that means longer lead times, longer production cycles, and all of that going forward is not going to be for 4 teams anymore. Because that's the thing. It's not about the tech. It's about producing the sheer volume of engines that Mercedes need to produce, and it's causing them a problem. So that's the negative, and that's why Mercedes are going to change it. But the positive is this, and when you drill into it, this is fascinating. He said, I think that we've shown in the past that having more than one team, you're getting more data, and data is gold, isn't it? You're getting more information. You're just getting more kilometers because you got all those cars, you get 4 times. This is the bit that I hadn't really considered. You get 4 times the engineers from all the 4 teams sitting around and telling you how you can improve your power unit. And you can do more this way or this way. And having that feedback from 4 teams, 4 lots of engineers, it allows you to develop the engine in far quicker, right? You basically got 4 teams adding to your workforce, giving you ideas on how to shape the development of that engine. So that's very, very beneficial to have all that coming at you. Toto goes on to say it doesn't always feel like it, but it definitely in terms of making a great product. Now, here's why I think they went with 4 customer teams in 26. It's the first year of a regulation cycle. First year of the power units. So by having 4 teams and 4 lots of engineers giving you suggestions on how to improve that power unit going forward, it makes sense. It's just the problem is the sheer volume of engines they actually have to produce. So he goes on to say the flip of that, we've got to make a lot of hardware. We've got to make a few decisions earlier. Not making those decisions earlier really hurts you sometimes because you can run things a bit too close to the wind. And I think that's the flip. I'm not sure whether the right place is 1 team, 2 teams, 3 teams or 4 teams. I'm not sure. There's definitely a sweet spot in there somewhere. And I think it's probably in the middle. So that's basically the problem that they've got. And he goes on to say this, which I think is interesting, because he was asked about, well, how does it feel when your power unit, when it's not with Mercedes, wins the World Constructors title? Say with McLaren, like McLaren did this year. And he's like, couldn't give a shit. Couldn't give a shit. We're here to win for Mercedes. And yes, we can pretend it's a win for us. But basically what he's saying is, it doesn't really matter to us. Don't get it twisted. It is all about Mercedes, the works team, winning. So yeah, you know, McLaren winning with our power unit, it's not the goal. It just isn't the goal. Yeah, and that's basically what he said. But I did find his argument interesting. And at the start of a regulation cycle, I don't know. And here's the thing I'm unsure about, which you in the chat may be able to clear up for me. Do we think that because he's got 4 customer teams, are those 4 customer teams committed, and are Mercedes committed to them for the full regulation cycle of 5 years? Or can there be shorter deals? Because we know Haas, for instance, Cadillac, I meant to say, for instance, have their intention of bringing their own power unit in 2028, which would be 3 years into the regulation cycle, and they have a deal with Ferrari. So I don't know the ins and outs of each of Mercedes' deals, but the reason why this becomes interesting is in year 1, you supply 4 teams, you get all those teams, all their engineers feeding back about your power units, you're getting all that data to improve it. And then let's say year 3, you lose 2 teams because they've gone a different way. You've benefited from all of that data coming back in. So I think it's this balancing act that Toto's trying to walk, but 4 teams is ambitious, right? I'm going to go to the chat. Yeah, Mark says very sore. Mark had a full load of dental work done the day before yesterday. I'm sure he's feeling very, very sore. Yes, Emma, yeah, my nose is streaming. What's your nose channel? Yeah, it needs its own channel. Honestly, my nose is not good. And you know it's bad when it's all green because it's an infection. And I'm like, you know, I've taken some Beechams before the show. I'm going to power through. But believe me, as soon as this stream's done tonight, I'm going to be like getting tucked up in bed, putting a film on. I feel rotten. I really do. I'm not one to moan about it though, because us men, we don't moan about man flu, do we? Thane says, why would going to V8s be interesting for manufacturers? Audi, Honda and Cadillac came in because of the hybrid focus. These companies know how to make ICEs. The challenge is making a hybrid system. It is. The challenge is making a hybrid system right now. But I think but it's expensive, right? It's expensive. And what Toto said earlier on this year, that the teams got together and they said the consensus at the moment moving forward for Formula One is to really ditch the electrification, and the sweet spot was naturally aspirated V8s with sustainable fuels. So why did they come to that sort of conclusion for this moment in time? I think it's because V8s, one, they're easier to produce, right? More engine manufacturers can produce a good V8. Two, I think the sound is better. I mean, having said that, listening to Alpine's soundtrack of the Mercedes V6 and listening to Honda's soundtrack of their V6, it all sounds pretty good, if I'm honest. Better than the current regulations, actually. But I think they just felt that was a sweet spot from a cost point of view and from a Formula One point of view. I think the V8s will sound even better. And I still think there's even more development with the V8, with materials that's used, etc. So that's what they said. That's what Toto said seems to be the general consensus moving forward. But 5 years is a long time. Who knows what's going to come out? What regulation changes? Who's going to be running the FIA? You know, who knows? It's just, I mean, they're talking about this now 5 years early when we've not even seen the new 50/50 V6 hybrids for next year. So that was just the general consensus that Toto was talking about at this moment in time for moving forward. Yeah, Livewire says, I think fans would like to see V8 or V10 configuration. Well, that's right. Well, that's I'm quite excited for a V8 again. And it would open the door to manufacturers, I think. But that, look, it's just, at the minute, it's Toto Wolff, you know, who's been talking about it in the last couple of months. Livewire says the 50/50 hybrid stuff is just not beneficial for racing. I view hybrids in racing as more of a power booster system for overtakes. I agree. And do you know what? I am reserving judgment on how the new boost button and the overtake button will affect racing. Because otherwise, let's say we go back to naturally aspirated V8s. Where can you get that injection of power? Well, you're going to go back to aerodynamically, aren't you? Where you can have like a DRS again, where you can open up the wings and give you less drag and give you more power. But it might be fascinating because of the battery tech and because we don't know what 50/50 means to the overtake button. We might like it. I mean, I don't want to like it, is the truth. There's part of me that doesn't want to like any electrification. But if it's like Mario Kart, those of you old enough to remember Super Mario Kart, where you push a button or you get that boost function, you know, it might make racing interesting. So I am going to reserve judgment to see how it works in 26. It might make for more overtakes, especially if the driver's got more control as to when he gets the extra power. Because that's the big problem with DRS, I think, is the zones. I had my AirPod in again. No one ever tells me. Sat there with my AirPod in. But yeah, so it comes down to that for me, really. It's the drivers being able to decide when to have the extra power when they want it, and if they get it wrong and they try for the extra power at the wrong corner, yeah, they put it in the wall, and I think that should be okay. I'm not sure about having zones where it's only, I don't know. I think the drivers should make that choice. That's just my personal view. Yeah, Thane says hybrid is more high tech. It is more high tech. I agree. Advancing tech is what the focus be for F1 on the engineering side. But don't you think, even if you limit where their focus goes, so we know hybrid is more high tech, but let's say we focus people back onto V8s. You know, surely somebody's going to come up with something. It's not the end of the development of the V8, is it? I mean, surely some brainiac somewhere will come up with a new, excuse me, improvements to the V8, whether it's a pistons, whether it's the cylinder heads, whether it's, you know, gaskets, whether it's other clever alloys that are movable under temperature, and you know, I'm sure there's more to come. But you can't argue with your man that it's the sounds of a V8. You know, they just sound better. And sustainable fuels is a great place to put that development, because sustainable fuels could be relevant to all of us. Well, I know hybrid tech is also, but sustainable fuels I think is also beneficial to the everyday man and the everyday car. The V8s will allow for lower costs, smaller, lighter, more manufactured engines by 2029, and I think that's a good thing. I think having every team with a unique power plant, I prefer that personally. I don't really like, because like we just talked about with Toto Wolff, having those V8s and that extra data that you get from having a customer, all those customer teams. I mean, is it right? I mean, is it okay? Is it an advantage? I think it's probably more an advantage than not. I know that the sheer volume of engines you have to make is a challenge, but don't forget they're also getting paid a lot of money from these customer teams. If you look at the engine cost cap per season, what is it now? 135 million. $135 million a year from the engine cost cap. So basically, all that money from all those customer teams is going to Mercedes. You know, that's what I think. Mark Reeves says, do the wings open shut together, or does the driver need to control open and shut? I think with the aero. So, right, good question. I think that the new aero in the 26 car is... I think the aero's automatic and the power boost is driver controlled, I think, or there's multiple configurations, because I think there'll be settings on the wheel where you push the overtake button and the aero will just give you the power and the aero will just flip open like DRS, and I think you get to control it. So if I was manufacturer of a team, I would want that power boost overtake button to be linked to the aero. Excuse me, sorry. Nobody wants to see my runny nose on a stream. Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry. I know that's awful. But yeah, so I think as soon as you hit the overtake button, you'll get the extra power, and like DRS, you'll go to minimum drag. I think that's what it'll be. And then I'm going to go to Thane here. God, it's moving quick. The chat's moving quick. So Juman says, going to V8s. Oh, no, I've done that. Let's not forget. Oh, Thane's talking about Honda. Let's not forget that Honda left F1 because there were rumours they were going to ditch the hybrid systems. The proof is that less manufacturers looking to join or stay pre-50/50 hybrid. That's interesting. I mean, I would have. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I honestly believe that if you're Cosworth, for instance, Formula One royalty in a lot of ways with the Cosworth engines, could they be a brilliant engine supplier? I mean, isn't it Cosworth that put the engine? It is in the T50 Gordon Murray road car V10. You know, I think you'd get I think Cosworth would jump back in at a V8 without all the hybrid bollocks. And I think there's other manufacturers that would too. I think the hybrid systems suit the big boys. They suit Mercedes. They suit Ferrari. They suit the Japanese, Honda in a lot of ways. Anyone who's running those systems, Audi, in their road cars and have really nailed that tech, I think it suits them. But in Formula One, I think there's room for. I honestly believe that moving forward, if V8s come back in 2031, I think even in house, I think you might even see by that point maybe Renault have sorted their shit out, and maybe they can come back with a V8. I don't know, but I actually think the V8s opens more doors than closes them. That's just my opinion. But I do accept the argument about Formula One being the forefront of technology, and they almost have a responsibility to keep developing. They're almost like NASA. Keep innovating, keep developing, keep engineering, because that work you do in Formula One does filter down into everyday life for the common man, and we have benefits. Carbon fiber is one of them, right? So yeah, I do think I do appreciate the argument, but there'll still be other innovations in Formula 1, even if they go back to V8s. And especially what the common man would like, I think, is sustainable fuels, really. I think that's you know, because if we look at battery tech, I think if you ever look at the argument for battery tech, is that more damaging to the environment, right, than people are really letting on? I'd say battery tech itself is pretty damaging to the environment, but sustainable fuels, I think, has got a universal beneficial benefit for the entire globe and for the common, you know, the common driver of regular cars. So I think we'll still see innovation, even if we go back to V8s. And yeah, Eric's talking about Formula E. Do not talk to me about Formula E. Exactly. We do not want Formula One morphing into Formula One. Scroll Finger, welcome to the chat. Pistons are getting new designs now. Exactly. Pistons are getting new designs. I mean, if you look at what Mercedes have done even with this hybrid system and the alloys, I mean, we're talking about this. The fact that they've developed an engine that can increase its compression ratio to 18:1 under race temperatures, which means, let's just work that out. That means that they need the engine, the piston rings, all to perfectly expand together perfectly by 0.5 millimeters at race temperatures, uniformly, all those different moving parts. I mean, and be reliable. I mean, that's pretty clever stuff, right? I mean, I'm not an engineer, but that sounds pretty complicated. And Livewire says, yeah, I want a naturally aspirated V8 that revs to 20k. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. I hope it's not a dull coming season. That's what Geothermal Cat says. Welcome to the chat, Geo. Lovely to have new faces in the chat. Geothermal Cat says, hope it's not dull. This is my prediction for 26. I think the gap between first and last place in Melbourne is going to surprise a lot of people, because we've had this fairly close, well, very close racing in 25, because we're at the end of a regulation cycle where all the car designs have morphed into a very similar shape, design, suspension design, unless you're Ferrari and decide to be contrary and not adopt the Adrian Newey suspension design that everyone else did when they copied Red Bull. But at the beginning of the regulation cycle, we could see a car 3 or 4 seconds behind. It could be that bad. But we're going to see far more of a diversification between the first and last place. That's what I think. But if this overtake button works, we could see some better overtakes. Because let's face it, the DRS train this year has been freaking boring. Freaking watching cars go around and all opened up in the DRS window. And it's like, there's no overtaking. It's freaking annoying. But at least now, if there's some battery management and you choose, and the driver gets control of when he hits that overtake button, and then the driver defending chooses when he hits defend to get the extra power, and then they can run out of battery, so that defend might not work. Whereas, you know, I don't know. I think it's we're going to explore it. It's here for 26. It could make for some better racing, in theory, but let's find out. Let's find out. Yeah, and Livewire says Cadillac doesn't even offer a hybrid road car right now, electric or IC. Yeah, they haven't got a hybrid. Yeah, I mean, but Cadillac's intention of having their hybrid power unit for 2028 is pretty ambitious. Gemma says, I'm not a fan of electric. If the engines go wrong or there's a bad crash, burn for 3 days and scorch the ground. That is one problem with battery tech. Putting them fires out is a problem. But the big problem is, it's the cobalt mines, isn't it? Like, it's crazy, and the actual sort of damage to the environment, which was meant to be the argument for going electric. It just, for me, just doesn't really feel like a solid argument. Oh yeah, Gemma goes on to say the cobalt mining and human costs, V8s and V10s all the way. Yeah, Gemma, girl after my own heart. Bring in the V8s or V10s. Eric says, I think at this point WC and IMSA tech applies to road cars much more directly than F1. Well, I think they're put under a lot of pressure by the governments, aren't they? With these arbitrary carbon emission targets and everything else. But it has proved, you know, Porsche have done well with the new 911s, I think. Battery's not anything but environmentally friendly. Or anything but environmentally friendly, exactly, Eric. Stemmer says, Gemma, 100%, my mind is blown by how many EVs I'm seeing on the road now. Here's the thing, right, I'm going to get off my soapbox about EVs before I move on to the next story, because the next one's a good one. But here's my soapbox about EVs. Right. They're building cars like they're building freaking Apple laptops. Expensive cars. 10 years later, the price of a Porsche Taycan has come down by a ridiculous amount. Buy a Taycan S, 140 grand. A year later, it's worth 60 grand. 10 years later, the batteries are still going to cost you 50 grand. So the car is basically written off. So they want cars. EVs are like freaking disposable cars. I don't want my car to be disposable. I want a car I can love, keep on the road for 40 years if I choose to. I don't want a battery tech to price it out so after 10 years your car literally goes in the bin and you spent 100 odd grand on it. Like, you know, back in the day you spent 100 grand on a 911. They're still on the road now and they've gone up in value. So that's why I don't want a car with a battery that costs, unless that battery costs £1,000 to replace, forget it. You know, some of these batteries are 50, 60, 70, 100 grand. It's insanity. That's my problem with EVs. And I'm going to get off my soapbox because I've gone on too much about it. Need to go on to the next story. Next story, Leclerc and Russell's Hamilton problem. So F1 always to go into it today. Charles Leclerc's realising what George Russell had to put up with his Lewis Hamilton teammate. And they both have the same gripe about it. And we're talking about it because it's a story that came out today, but it's Lewis Hamilton's birthday today. Happy birthday, Lewis. 41 years old today. Just a whippersnapper compared to Fernando Alonso. And we're going to talk about, I'll bring it up. I've got his quote on my phone or what he said on his Instagram. But first of all, what do you think about this? Charles Leclerc and George Russell, both in agreement that the most annoying thing about having any involvement with Lewis Hamilton as a teammate is they get questioned about Lewis freaking Hamilton. Right, and let's put this into context. So, the final year Hamilton was at Mercedes, teammate George Russell out-qualified Hamilton 19-5. He beat Hamilton in qualifying 19 times. Hamilton beat Russell 5 times. And in the races, he beat Hamilton 13 times and Hamilton beat him 7 times. So George Russell really did dominate Hamilton in his final year at Mercedes. You can go into the whys, ifs, wheres and whens and everything else, but that's a fact. George Russell really took Hamilton to school, final year at Mercedes. Now, Leclerc in 25 out-qualified Hamilton 19 times. This season, 19-5, and he outperformed Hamilton in the races 21 times. So, if you're that driver and your teammate isn't Lewis Hamilton, do you think you get asked about your teammate? No, not really. You know, if you're, let's think of an example. Pierre Gasly or Colapinto. Do you think Pierre Gasly gets asked about Colapinto? Or he doesn't. He doesn't. They don't. It's like, because Hamilton's quite rightly a 7-time world champion and he is the GOAT, but why are they putting it on to Leclerc and to George Russell to answer questions about Hamilton's performance? What's wrong with Hamilton? And then Leclerc handled it brilliantly this year. Because Hamilton said in the press, they need to replace the driver, and multiple comments about, how bad he's doing, how bad he's performing. And then Leclerc gets asked about it, and he sticks up for Hamilton. But he shouldn't be put in that position, should they? Like, have some... If I was Leclerc, I'd be like, ask me about my weekend. Ask Lewis about his weekend. It's not my job to be speculating on Lewis Hamilton. And I think if you're George Russell, and because they're not rookies, these drivers are the best drivers on the grid, in the top few anyway. Leclerc, Russell, Verstappen, best drivers on the grid. And do you know what? You get sick of being asked about Lewis Hamilton, and I'm a Lewis fan. And yes, he's the GOAT. Yes, he struggled at Mercedes, and now he struggled in his last year at Ferrari. But Jesus, stop asking other drivers about Lewis Hamilton. Or if you are those other drivers, just refuse to answer. like Lewis has got to deal with this stuff himself, right? It's bollocks. And I get it. And I'm not surprised they're moaning about it, because they shouldn't be doing all that. They shouldn't be answering about it. But on a more positive note for Lewis, he has come back today with this comment. I'm going to read it out. He put another return, meaning it's his birthday. I'm incredibly grateful for this break. Time to disconnect, recharge, and find a bit of inner peace. Time with family and friends, replenishing with rest and good laughs has been everything I needed after a very draining year. In a world that moves so fast, where we're constantly being pulled in so many directions, truly disconnecting has been the most amazing feeling, because he went dark on his phone, turned his phone off over Christmas. Fair enough. I'm conscious that we're entering the year of the horse and leaving behind the year of the snake. The time for change is now. Starting new routines, leaving behind unwanted patterns, and working on growth. Let go of the things that don't serve you. This can take time. There'll be things you can't get rid of immediately, but it starts with the first step. Even though the world can seem like a mess, I hope that you're staying focused on living life to the fullest. Be you. Never forget who you are. I learnt that from many of you who told me this in 2025, and I'll never forget again. Your support means the world to me, and I'm here for you too. You're never alone. Let's take this one day at a time, one step at a time. That sounds like a guy who has gone, do you know what? I moaned a lot last year, quite rightly. I talked about giving up. I was negative at times. I lost my mojo. And I had all these people saying, Lewis will come back. Even like going back to my earlier point about Leclerc, he was sticking up for him. George Russell would say positive things about him. Toto Wolff would say positive things about him. And now he's gone, do you know what? He's had this, he's recharged, and I'm here for it. It's his 41st birthday. And I like that comment from Lewis. I like his comment. I actually feel quite hopeful that he's coming back going, yeah, I'm back in the ring. I'm grateful for what I've got. I'm grateful for the support. And now it's about me proving it. You know, I'm going to come out fighting. I'm going to do my best. And I like it. I think it was a positive message. Let me know what you think. But I actually think that was a positive message from Lewis, and I think that's what we need from Lewis moving forward. He is still the GOAT. He's a 7-time world champion, and I am not being disrespectful to him in any way, shape, or form. But going back to this article and going back to this point, if you're a journalist watching this, and I know people do, like, look, yeah, I know everyone's looking for that Hamilton tidbit that's going to get you clicks and move it on, but you know what, like, let Hamilton answer the questions. Let people like Leclerc has got his own shit going on. Let him drive. Hamilton needs to beat Leclerc. Forget winning world titles. He's got one person to beat right now, and that's his teammate. That's all Hamilton should be thinking about. Be faster than Leclerc. It's the only way you're going to be world champion. You can't do it without it. So one focus. Are you faster than Charles Leclerc in 2026? And that is a tall order, because Charles Leclerc's quick and he did well this year. And that's all he needs to worry about, Lewis Hamilton. But on a positive note, happy birthday, Lewis Hamilton. I like your comment. I think I'm excited to see if you can pull it out of the bag. And not long till we see how you get on in testing. But that's what they're saying about Lewis Hamilton. It is a good point. It is a good point. Next story. This is an interesting one. This is Audi. First real F1 success explained. Now, this I found brilliant. This is coming out from the race today. So, what success are we talking about with the new kids on the block, Audi, coming to 2026? What's been their first F1 success? Well, I love what Audi have done. This has gone under the radar. In 2025, at Sauber, and you know Audi have been working with Sauber all year, obviously, they decided, and I thought this was brilliant, they put 10 of their young engineers, aerodynamic specialists, engineers, on Project 25. Because all the bigwigs, the Bonottos, the Wheatleys, etc., are working on the Audi launch car for 26. They're young guns in the Audi hemisphere of engineers. They said, hey, they took 10 of their brightest and best and said, your task is to aerodynamically improve the 25 Sauber car. and you need to get us a podium, like the Avengers. And do you know what they did? They did it. They did it. Hülkenberg got his first podium at Silverstone in 2025, and Audi. I think this is fascinating. Their youngest, brightest aerodynamic guys said they put them on project at 25, and they were directly responsible for taking Sauber from what being a P9 team to being a strong contender in the midfield. And I think that bodes very, very well for Audi, Team Audi, in 2026. This isn't their big guns. They put their youngest, brightest and gave them a challenge. And I think that's brilliant. I think that's brilliant because you can see it actually works. And what they called it their Special Forces team, which I think is very, very cool. It's their Special Forces aerodynamic team. And they dramatically increased the competitiveness of that 2025 car. And I think that's a win for Audi. Because let's look at Audi. They're going a little bit under the radar. Wheatley and Zimmerman let slip that the engine unit, the power unit at Audi is pretty damn good. And they've been on the dyno and on the bench for months before Ferrari. And all they're working on is reliability. Now you've got, they've got these like unheard of, these young guns that they've got in aerodynamics, where they had the chance to show what they can do because the bigwigs were working on the 26 car and they were good. They added, or what I should say is they shaved off tenths and tenths of lap time over the 25 season. And I think this looks good for Audi in 2026. I don't think they're going to be languishing the back. And I think they've got layers to their team of talent. So yeah, I thought that was fascinating. And what Kay said was what I thought was really positive. And what Key said, I should say. What I thought was really positive. We had a young group of excellent aerodynamicists and said, right, the 20 car is the big push for the mass majority, but you're going to be special forces for the 25 car. It's about 10 young aerodynamicists, very talented ones, and we set them loose on that challenge. Now, rather than getting nervous and stressed, they viewed it as a challenge that we want to get a podium and we're going to do this. The attitude and team spirit which saw us through to getting it fixed were a big part of it. And it was a great advert for everyone of what belief and persistence can bring to a team. And they achieved it. These 10 young guns achieved it. Well done, Audi. Well done for giving your young guys a chance to do something that matters. And give them the credit for it. So yeah, bodes well for Audi. Like the look of the way that team's shaping up. Very excited for Audi next year. And our final story tonight. Actually, I'm just going to go to the chat. Actually, I just realised the chat's been going on. What are you guys saying in the chat? Oh, you're still arguing about Formula E. It's not just nostalgia. I think Formula E is insanely boring. There's no noise. The noise alone, Eric. The noise alone, I can't deal with it. Stop arguing about electric and advanced. The truth is, we can't. Naturally aspirated will always win over electric, in my opinion. But the advancement in technology, we will still get great advancements, even if they go back to V8. That is what I think. Mark Reeves says, Audi are no mugs. They know what they're doing. Yeah, they do. And it sounds like they're building a team. Because you know what that tells us about putting those 10 young aerodynamicists on that challenge? Is that team structure at Audi sounds good. Team morale sounds good. And the fact that they're prepared to give their young guys some responsibility and make them task orientated and a challenge and give them the credit for doing something that matters rather than being stuck, behind a computer, drafting out ideas and not actually getting to see, one, get the credit for their work, and two, sort of being given the freedom for blue sky thinking. Because at that point on the 25 car, what are they going to do? The car's a P9 car. They're not going to make it any worse, are they? You may as well let them have a go. Let them break things, right? Because you got to let people break things to make things. That's how it works. So giving those guys a chance to get it wrong in order to get it right, a lot of teams can't afford and won't do that. Because you can't in the throes of a racing season. You know, somebody's got to, you know, make the big calls. So brilliant. Yeah, I think Audi did it right. Chef's back. Chef is back. Hey Chef, nice to see you in the chat, buddy. Hey everyone, Formula E is bumper cars. Yeah, it's fast milk floats. You know, we'll come back to this in 10 years and I'll be like, welcome to FE Grandstand. FE Grandstand, because that's become the new thing and we all love it. Maybe a new channel, FE Grandstand. See how many people are interested. I'm sure there's a lot of people following it. Jaman says Audi is also very smart, stating to the public moderate expectations for 26, 27. Exactly. Under promise, over deliver, guys, right? Anyone that's been in management knows that's the way. Excuse me, my nose is running, sorry. Sorry, excuse me, I know it's disgusting. It's just, I don't want my nose to be running live on it. I really do have man flu. But yeah, exactly. You know, under promise, over deliver. Even Adrian Newey's been trying to do that all year. I've been piling on the pressure to Aston Martin, saying, come on, Aston Martin are going to be a rocket ship. Adrian Newey doesn't talk like that. He's like, you know, he just wants to manage the expectation, because then, you know, under promise, over deliver. It's like, it's rule 101. But I think Audi are going to be a shocker. I think they're going to, not shocking. I mean, they're going to shock a few people. They may not. I don't think Audi will be at the back. I think Audi, you know, could surprise a lot of people. Because remember, regulation change, rule change. You know, look at Brawn. You know, they won the World Championship in their first year. I mean, they had Ross Brawn, you know, and he's a genius. But there you go. I regard Adrian Newey in the same boat. So, last story of the night. And this is a Cadillac story. Just a quick one, this. Cadillac must avoid breaking F1 rule that barred one team from putting their cars on the grid. What rule are we talking about? Well, and also, who's saying this? Boo, Bernie Collins, boo. Bernie, she's very, very, very negative at the minute, but I'll be coming to that. Pointing out that the devil's advocate, Cadillac needs to worry about this, Cadillac needs to worry about that. Like, stop there's nothing worse than devil's advocate. Cadillac will know about these rules and regulations, but what rule are they talking about? They're talking about the 107% rule. Some of us are old enough to remember what this means. So, if you're new to Formula One, what the 107% rule means is this. So, let's say P1 fastest time in qualifying is 100 seconds. It means that the slowest car on the grid, in order to qualify, needs to be within 107%. So it means they would have to their fastest pace would have to be quicker than 107 seconds. So basically within a 7% window between first and last, and that's 107% rule. Now, because of a major rule change and a major cycle change, that's when we're going to get the biggest diversion between first and last place. So we're going to see the maximum gap, really, I would say, in 2026 between first and last place. So in qualifying, you know, the slowest car on the grid has to be within 107% of the fastest car on the grid. And that's the 107% rule. And who's been talking about this? So a lot of people have been saying that this is an issue. We haven't really seen this for a long time. The last team to fall outside of the 107% rule was HRT, which was back in, when was it? 2011, I think it was, because I'm going to check. 2011 season. And HRT were a team that really struggled. It's actually the team that gave Daniel Ricciardo his first drive at a very young age. But yeah, they had a situation in Melbourne 2011, I think it was, where they didn't qualify. They were too slow. I mean, to be fair to them, they did build a car without any testing, without any pre-season, turned up and just went racing, which was madness. There was all a Spanish team. It was a different time in Formula One back then. But it was when we had Virgin Racing or Marussia and Manor Racing, whatever you want to call that team. It was a crazy time in Formula One. It seemed like anyone could go and get a team. I could have got a team for like £100 in a bag of grapes. Anyway, that was what happened. But they were the last team to fail with the 107% rule. But going back to Cadillac, all these naysayers, Bernie Collins being one of them. Boo, Bernie Collins, boo, fearing for Cadillac. And she also said that Bernie Collins thinks Bottas and Perez might clash. Bernie, you need to stop with your negative comments, because I saw that Hot Wings video with Bottas and Perez, and they seem to be getting on really well. Did you see the Hot Wings video between Bottas and Perez posted this week? Really funny. They're out there doing the whole PR offensive for Cadillac, doing a good job. I think Bottas and Perez get on great. I don't think it's going to be a problem. The 107% rule, though, there is no way I think that Cadillac are going to be that slow. No way. They're not going to be outside the 107%. If they are, listen, they could be a couple of seconds slower a lap, right? First year in Formula One. But, I don't know, 107%? If they are, it'll only be in Melbourne. But it's something to think about. I don't think Cadillac are truly worried about it. But this story's coming out from F1 Oversteer, and these were the concerns. But obviously, we report the news and we react to the news. Let me know what you think about that. Do you think Cadillac could possibly be outside of the 107%? And Jaman's right, it's Quali 1 only, so it's within Q1. But when the 107% rule was initially brought into Formula One, we didn't have Q1, Q2, Q3. We just had qualifying, didn't we? Do you remember those days when everyone used to wait? You'd watch it on the telly and they'd have an hour's qualifying, and you'd watch it on telly and no one would be out on track. It would just be empty. You'd have no one out on track, and the TV coverage just got an hour of fill, and then for the final 5 minutes or 3 minutes, the teams would go out and do a hot lap. And that was qualifying, and then they changed it to Q1, Q2, and Q3. But that rule was obviously been around back then. So now it's, in order to extrapolate that rule into current modern F1, it is Q1 only. So if you're not within 107% in Q1, you're out. And that means you do not get to race in the Grand Prix. No starting in the back of the grid, no taking part whatsoever. Yes, the Thane says the way Lewis has been driving, he should be. Thane says the way Lewis has been driving, he should be worried about not hitting the 107% rule. Brutal. Listen, you heard what he had to say. You heard his statement. Lewis is coming to play in 2026. He feels like he's coming out confident, positive, and he's giving it his all. Chef says, surprising that a Mexican was afraid of spice. Now, I'm not. Is it racist to say that? I hope it isn't. But I did have the same thought. I was like, surely you grew up with Mexican food. You've got accustomed to spicy food. And he turns around and he's like, Bottas, he's like, he doesn't like Mexican, he doesn't like spicy food. Have you ever eaten Mexican food? I mean, literally, even the mild Mexican food is spicy as hell. Yeah, I was surprised as well. I thought he would have been brought up with Mexican food. He'd easily walk it, but it's Bottas who is adding the extra spice on, taking big bites of the wings. And Perez, you let us down, my mate, because he said, I only was told he had to take a little bite. He was taking little, mice nibbles on it. Perez. That was a poor showing. Bottas, Gemma's favourite, didn't let us down on the wing challenge. Jaman says, do you think Perez is a little round in the face in the wings commercial? Oh, do you know what? I'm not going to lie. I don't like to call people out on how they look, right? Because I think we live in a world now where people look how they want. I think it's what it represents. I think it does. I think with him, it just told me that surely you need to get match fit, right? Like, if you were in tip-top physical condition, your face is going to be cut. Now, on the reverse side, you see Bottas, he looks in shape, doesn't he? Perez needs to get in shape, but I think Perez let himself get out of shape, really. When we saw Perez get the drive, I think even Perez will admit it, that, he had a year out. Bottas was still reserve driver at Mercedes getting paid, stayed in trim. So I think Perez will be on a programme, and by the time we see him in Melbourne, I mean, he's got to get busy, hasn't he? Like, he needs to be fit and healthy to drive an F1 car with the modern stresses and strains. But yeah, I did think that Perez looks like he's probably not quite there yet on his fitness levels. Yeah. Thane says the Ham late braking style should not be ideal for this generation of car. You need to lift earlier to use engine braking before applying the brake to maximize battery recovery. Exactly. You got to be smooth in this day and age. With the regenerative braking, you've got to let the motor do the braking for you, right? And if you've driven a Tesla, you'll know how shit that is, but that is what it is. Clever system. Yeah, stamping on the brakes isn't going to be it. Late braking, stamping the brakes, you are not going to recharge the battery in that way. You want to extend that period of the motor regenerative braking period before you're taking away the inertia. Look, I sound like an engineer now, don't I? But yeah, but that's basically the regenerative braking. You're right. It's Hamilton. They're all going to have to adapt their style. To be honest, it's going to be. But you know, driving that Ferrari with lift and coast in 25 might help him. Maybe even Charles Leclerc will adapt well. But yeah, going back to Cadillac, I think Checo and Perez, I think Checo and Bottas will be ready. Ricardo's one of my favourites. He had the same problem his last year in. What, like he wasn't fit enough? I think if you look at the guys, look at Fernando Alonso, 45. He looks fit, strong. Nico Hülkenberg, they all look fit and healthy, don't they? I think Perez, look, they're their own barometer. They want to win, and then and if it means giving up the cheeseburgers in order to help you win, they'll do it. And I think Checo is no different. They'll all be in tip-top shape, and they'll be in a program, and they'll get fitter and fitter throughout. The trouble is, if they spend a lot of time in America, I lived in America for a while, lived in LA, and I tell you, the food, oh my God, the food, the Philly cheesesteaks, tell me about it. Awesome. I ate a lot. Yeah. And Thane says, yeah, Checo's from a region where spicy food is more mild. I bet it's still spicy than in Manchester. That's what I think. Chef will know. Chef will cook us up a spicy dish. Yeah. All right, guys. That's it for tonight. Those are your 4 stories. I'm going to go and get... maybe I'll have a little hot toddy, because my nose is streaming. I need to go and find some Beechams. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I'll be back tomorrow night, 7:30. Even if I'm full of a cold, I'll still be here. See you tomorrow night, 7:30. Thank you so much to everybody who has joined in. Chat's been really good. Always a pleasure, never a chore. I'll be back tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Ta-ta.